Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here in the heart of New York City in Lincoln Center. It is our honor and our pleasure to welcome Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, best-selling author, commentator, scholar, and his new book out, boy, it got me thinking, it's going to get you thinking, Tears We Cannot Stop. Good to see you, partner.
Always good to see you, my man.
Last time I interviewed must have been about 10 years ago, earlier on in my career, and you had me thinking then, too. Yeah. We did 2 half-hours with you back-to-back. We talked about the one issue I want to talk about with you today, and things have changed. Race.
Right.
The discussion on race has changed dramatically in this way. One of the things that struck me, I'll get right to it.
Right.
You said Barack Obama was not the president, was not the black president that black America should have elected, and that Donald Trump is the response? Did I get that wrong?
Well, what I'm saying is, let me give a little bit more context to that.
I'm sure there is.
I'm saying that Barack Obama is an extraordinary president. I'm saying that what he did for America was remarkable. What he did on race, not as remarkable. And he reminded black America, I am not your president. Okay, fine. We didn't think we had elected the president of the NAACP. We thought you were the president of everybody. But the reason he did that, a slight excoriation, was to remind America that I know that I'm the president of everybody and I don't want to kowtow to or capitulate to the interests of a narrowly defined group. That was, condescending, but we understood. And I'm saying his refusal to address race in specific and direct fashion, until forced to. We know that it was difficult for him as the first black president. You don't want to go out and put yourself in a black box. You don't want to ghettoize yourself as the black president. But that's different than addressing issues that happen to affect citizens who happen to be black. So I'm saying it created a space for Donald Trump, who was willing to talk about race. Donald Trump, good or bad, for ill or for better, saying, I'm going to take it on. Hey, you people in, urban America, I'm going to address your situation. You're not doing good under this president. Now, whether you agree with him or not, the point is he stepped into that vacuum. He deliberately and forthrightly addressed it. I happen to disagree with most of what he says, but he is at least forthright. And I think that Barack Obama created a condition where his procrastination, his reluctance to engage these issues left the interpretation to somebody else and to forces that were, quite frankly, inferior to not only his intellect, but to his ability to understand the complicated and sophisticated nature of race.
What scares you about Trump when it comes to our relations together, our interaction together, because you've also said in this book, Michael, that you believe this is a critical point for our country as to whether we're ever going to be able, forget about coming together, just even talk.
Yeah, it's
versus.
Going in completely opposite directions. Look, if Steve Adubato is the president, my God, we've got the possibility of an intelligent guy, informed. We could disagree.
Good looking.
But extremely good looking and far better hair. But the thing is that we could engage in a conversation. I know that you understand the landscape. You're sensitive. You're empathetic, even if we disagree about issues. With Donald Trump, he says he has empathy. He says he has understanding, but I doubt it. I doubt it because you spent so many years castigating Barack Obama, the birther movement, amplifying the worst sentiments of race. All right, let's say that was a horrible situation. Now he's president. First sign, you put in Steve Bannon in the West Wing. Now, maybe he's getting further marginalized now. That's what I was about to say.
As we take this program in the spring, 2017, we'll see what happens. Go ahead.
We'll see what happens, but the fact is, he's amplifying a white nationalism that is problematic, and then Jeff Sessions is already doing things that are harming the historic legacy of civil rights in regard to the Justice Department.
Stay right there. We're doing a series on police-minority relations on public broadcasting, the consent decree, Newark, other places. Jeff Sessions saying, get rid of it. Racial profiling, keep talking. That's
right. That's extremely important. So all that stuff is out the door. The consent decree is out the door. The ability to talk honestly between law enforcement and American citizens out the door. So I'm saying Donald Trump has amplified the worst instincts of America, repudiated the best instincts of the previous administration, and leaves us without a basis to honestly engage the issue of race. Building walls, damning Mexicans, implying that Muslims are not really, truly American citizens and the like. I'm just saying we're in a very powerful racial miasma that leaves me worried.
But the other thing about this, Michael, in so many areas I agree with you, but other areas I struggle.
Right.
You tell very powerful stories. I was talking to my wife, Jennifer, about this. You tell powerful stories about your own personal experience.
Right.
You were pulled over many, many times.
Sure.
your children saw that in cases where I'm confident that would not have happened to me by police.
Right.
Treated in a way where I'm confident it would not have happened to me
Right.
by police. The tears we cannot stop.
Right.
The tears of you and others
Yes.
who happen to be black. The other part of that, from my perspective, there's a part of me that struggles with the fact that there does not seem to be a sensitivity or an awareness of some of the fear, anxiety, and struggles of some who happen to be white who are convinced that their children
Right.
are being shortchanged. Their children may not have the same opportunities for college or whatever.
Gotcha.
Right or wrong perception.
Great.
Fair not.
Right. Well, no, look, it's fair in this sense. Absolutely. When we look at new reports that suggest that increasing numbers of white Americans are dying deaths of despair, right? That the heartache, heartbreak, addiction, alcoholism, lack of... Yes, we understand, because we have suffered those same deaths without recognition. Look, when the plague of the political economy of crack in this country in the 80s besieged and ravaged black and brown communities, there was no empathy like, oh my God, these people are addicted or subject to downturns in the economy that have left them bereft of a safety net, and now they're being buffeted by these forces. It was your thugs, your criminals, your nihilists, your savages.
Deserve what you get.
Right. On the other hand, we've got young kids addicted to opioids or people who are addicted to meth. Oh my God.
Crisis.
Let's medicalize them. Look, and I'm down with the medicalization. Don't get me wrong. So yes, I have that deep empathy for that because I think it's right. I just want that to be extended on the other side of the aisle, so to speak, and to say that African-American, Latino, and for, quite frankly, even poor white people who are suffering in that devastating fashion, at least be honest about that and say this is something that we must all medicalize, not criminalize. We have built up, Democrats and Republicans, let's be honest, the prison industrial complex, which has put people increasingly into prison and jails and not giving them the same kind of relief from a medical intervention that might make their lives much easier, but also preserve their humanity in the face of their crisis.
And the title of the book?
Tears We Cannot Stop. The suffering, the pain, the agony, the invisible tears that many people don't often see. The suffering. You talk about some of the stories I tell. You can imagine, you're a tremendous father and mate. You know what it means to see your children like subject to forces you know are wrong, because you know they're decent. Other people may not, but you know that they're good kids. And you know, my son, a physician in New York here, anesthesiologist being pulled over, fearing that he will be killed in front of his son.
Excuse me for interrupting. By the way, you are a preacher also by background, and this is, you say it's a sermon. What have you told your son about that circumstance when it happens?
Look, I tell him, look, you always have to do whatever you can to alleviate the fear. Whether right or wrong, you have to alleviate the fear of that cop, like all of us as Americans have to do, but there's an extra layer there. You have to alleviate the fear. He did. He said, I did everything you told me. I tried to put this cop at ease, and still there was a resentment. So I tell him, look, I was talking to Eric Holder, then the Attorney General of the United States of America, not long after Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman. He couldn't tell me what he would say to his son. He says, I'm the Attorney General. You run, you get shot. You don't run, you get shot. If you stay still, if you put your hands up, if you don't put your hands up, and this is just with the police, it's an extremely excitable situation for many people, but a lot of people are skeptical. They say, come on, you must have done something. They don't believe the fact that when some police show up, the very fact of my blackness is a threat, is a danger. Now, we know that police exist in horrible situations where they're doing extraordinarily valorous work and heroic work, and a lot of people don't recognize it. Whatever your color is, we get that. But we also understand the disproportionate concentration of and racial profiling of black and brown people. Why is it that black and brown cops don't usually, I'm not saying not always, don't usually end up in the same fiascos, hurting, harming, shooting, or killing people of color?
Why is it? Do you understand?
They do. I mean, look, if you grow up in a situation, you're from Canarsie, you're from Bensonhurst, and those people, you know them. Hey, he just looks like he ain't gonna do anything, right? But if you're coming in from Delaware and you're policing Freddie Gray in Baltimore, you don't live there, you don't know those people, they don't look like your own kind, and all of us do that. These are not my people, I don't know them, and as a result of that, you are emboldened or you feel endangered, and now the clock begins where it's a tick, tick, tick down to the degree to which I will be abused, potentially.
So, doctor, pastor, Michael, how how are we ever really going to be able to have an honest, genuine conversation about race between and among the races without all the rancor and the anger, or is that a pipe dream?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think honesty on both sides. Look, when I listen to Donald Trump says, hey, we're not going to be politically incorrect and people voted for that. Well, what do you mean by that? If you mean by political correctness, I want to continue my ways of bigotry and insensitivity toward women or gays or queer people and blacks and browns and poor white people. Look, that's not going to help America because you can't receive it. Can you hear what you're willing to give? Honest conversation. I teach at Georgetown University. Last time I checked, it was not a historically black college or university. So I've been teaching for 25 to 30 years, young white kids in America.
You got white students there.
Oh my God, most of them.
That's right.
Extraordinary, insightful, willing to be self-critical. The hope of the future to me is young people like that who say, look, I understand white privilege. I understand what it means to possess a certain kind of outlook and understanding, and I want to engage. And my classrooms are safe spaces for everybody.
Every point of view.
Every point of view.
Someone voted for Trump like Trump. How do you deal with it?
Look, I tell them about how Trump met me, right? You know, I tell that story in 30 Rock in the elevator.
That's right.
You've been very tough on me, but I love you.
He said that to you?
Literally. And he says, and if I had your pipes and your brains, I'd be president now. This is when he's running. And then he took a picture. You know how you do with girls? No disrespect to the president. You know how you do with some girls like, oh, okay, I don't want to be seen in public with you, really. So we go to the side, we take a picture. He then takes me down the aisle. This is one of the smartest men in America. Donald Trump 101, one of the most charismatic guys. I don't care what anybody says. A charismatic guy. It's the public policy that's problematic to me. It's the assault upon the interests of those who are vulnerable that's problematic to me. So if we can find a way, many of us, to sit down honestly and openly and discuss, I think we have a tremendous possibility of turning this around. But it has to be honest, open conversation where all sides are willing to hear.
Even when we say, Michael, we don't understand, and we're also angry, and we literally don't get it. And cops who are saying, you don't get our world, and the fact that we are on the other end. And many of the cops we talked to in our series on police-minority relations say they feel targeted.
Sure.
They feel like they are under siege.
Well, look, I can understand that.
Pandora's box, but
I can understand that. But look, it's not equal, is it? If you, as a cop, meet a citizen, I'm not talking about somebody who's a criminal is going to kill you and so on. I'm talking about you as a citizen. I meet you, you're armed, you're to the teeth because you're representing the state. You have the imprimatur of the state. And if you end up hurting, harming, or sometimes even killing a person, the likelihood of you being brought to justice is nil. So I'm saying, first of all, it's not even equal to begin with. And then secondly, I can understand people feeling targeted in the sense of we're demonizing this particular group. That's why I say let's not even talk about cops per se in terms of bad versus good. Let's talk about a system that creates an opportunity either to, to de-accelerate, so to speak, and calm things down, and to have open conversations where we can talk.
The name of the book is Tears We Cannot Stop. The author is an extraordinary scholar and man.
Thank you,
an American. His name is Michael Eric Dyson, and you honor us by being with us. And by the way, it was Toni Morrison who said, elegantly written, a work to relish. She's right as usual.
Thank you, sir.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Georgian Court University, Suez, Summit MD Anderson Cancer Center, Qualcare Inc., Johnson & Johnson, Gary's Wine and Marketplace, and by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.